Good morning. I'd like to call the personnel meeting to order. We need to pick up the minutes from, what was the date again? I missed the date from the last meeting.
February 10th.
February 10th. I should have known because it's March 10th and it's 28 days. Entertained a motion to approve the minutes from February 10th. Dave, second. Jay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. All right, let's jump right into it. Starting with staffing at DPW.
We have a backfill for a highway worker 2, due to a position change. The person went, to be the account clerk.
Moved by Jay, seconded by Cassie. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then we need to do a staffing pattern change.
The next one is a staffing pattern change due to a backfill of either a senior account clerk or an account clerk. DPW hired an account clerk, so we just need to make that change on the staffing pattern.
Because we had put it in as a senior account clerk, right?
We put it in either or.
One. Yeah, so we need to clarify that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Moved by Cassie, seconded by Dave. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Public health.
Okay, public health, established some fellowship positions. They did have the, funding approved in finance for the full budget. What we're doing is creating, adding them to the grade schedule. So in your packet, there's some highlighted information. New York State recommended a salary amount. So what I did was, place our fellows, our local coordinator, and our graduate fellow to be the closest to the New York State recommended, but under that amount so that we weren't over budget. So close to
I didn't touch anything, I swear to you.
so the fellow for $21.94 an hour. The local coordinator, grade 16 at $27.15 an hour, and then the graduate fellow at grade 18 at $29.75 an hour. And I'm just, I would like your approval or any comments that you have about that.
Okay, I will admit I didn't miss this HHS meeting. So this is money that they received from the state for these positions, and you needed. Was the approval from HHS to go to finance for the budget amendments to take care of this funding, Al?
Budget's in place, and this grant goes through July of 2023. So there is a period that this funding is for.
Okay, and since that budget that's going to be approved, we just need to backtrack and make sure it all fits in the staffing pattern in the proper in the grade schedule, which is more important to make sure it all fits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so this came through your committee and everything was approved through your committee?
Yeah.
Okay. Question, well, I guess Bob has a question.
Just a comment, thinking back to when I got a graduate fellowship, it was nothing like $54,000. It's nice that they're actually supporting these things in a fairly reasonable manner. And I think they thought I'd live on $4,000 or something like that for the year, you know. Of course, that was before the crust of the earth cooled, so
They were still ramen.
It's nice to see that. Yeah, it's nice to see that they're supporting them in a relatively decent way.
So this is a program where it's approximately a one-year program?
It started September 1st of 2021 through July 31st of 2023.
We're well into the program here already with how many hires.
Are we done pro-tunking this kind of thing?
Was there somebody there yet?
Oh, there's nobody there yet. Okay.
And the thing is, with this, the applications run through a state site. So people apply on the state website, and then Tina pulls them from a group of, they pick 5 counties that they want to be hired from. And Washington County, she said she really only had one person so far, that we were their number 1 pick.
Okay.
So there's others that are from all over the state that are applying to the county, so she just has to go through them to be able to hire some people. But that's where we're at right now, is picking some people.
So I'm thinking that's why they're thinking they possibly may extend it, because it
Yeah.
started so late for so many people.
Right.
And so from a personnel standpoint and a budgetary standpoint, what happens in July of 2023? The funding would cease unless it gets extended?
From what Tina was saying, it may possibly be extended,
Okay.
but she wasn't positive, and those positions would more likely be abolished.
They would be, okay, so there's a
Right.
sunset here.
Right.
These aren't perpetual things that
Right.
we'll pick up the funding
From
afterwards.
what we know right now, yeah.
Okay, from what we know right now.
So when the program ends, positions will go away.
Right.
That's what we're
Yeah.
assuming is
Yeah.
happening.
Right.
They're cynical over here, so I'm quite buying that.
We're the state, we're here to help.
Yeah, okay. So we need to approve really the grade schedule for these?
Yes.
All right. So, go ahead, Sue, I'm sorry.
I'll make the motion.
I'm making a motion by Sue, seconded by Cassie. Discussion regarding the Public Health Corps Fellowship Program. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay.
Okay, the next one is a backfill, anticipated backfill for the Assistant Director of Patient Services in Public Health. What Tina and I, after some discussion, we also wanted to change the title to Director of Patient Services. Since there isn't a director, having an assistant director was kind of, we wanted to make it the Director of Patient Services. We're looking at the same base salary for that position, and we just want to get on it now because the anticipated retirement is June, so we need, someone that has a bachelor's in nursing. So we want to get out there and start promoting the vacancy and try to get someone in here. So we're asking for the backfill due to an anticipated retirement.
So would the position be created now in the staffing pattern of director? And then when we hire that person, we'll eliminate the assistant director? I mean, mechanically.
We didn't plan I guess we would have to come back to that to see if she would ask for an overlap.
Oh, I see.
This backfill is more to start advertising
Okay.
for the position,
So-
where we may have to come back and ask for.
So if there is a discussion regarding any kind of shadowing overlap,
Right.
we're not approving that here now. We're
No.
gonna have to work that through Health and Human Services
Right.
to come to
Right.
personnel,
Right,
to come to finance to figure out how we pay for an overlap, if that's
Right.
possible.
right. If it's needed.
Yeah. Okay. So you're looking for,
Just the backfill right now.
With the new title.
we're backfilling a new title.
Right.
Removing the old title once it's vacant.
Right.
Okay, Al?
So, to Chairman's point, we do need to change the staffing pattern to authorize the backfill of the position that doesn't exist.
It would be the exempt salary schedule.
So we might as well put it in the staffing pattern now, because you're authorizing a backfill of the position that doesn't exist. So-
Right, right.
And at this level, I would anticipate Tina asking for some level of overlap. I mean, it really would be beneficial to the county.
Yeah.
So how do we go about the fact that we always try to line up the staffing pattern in the budget, where you're gonna have two positions in the staffing pattern, but only one budgeted for at the moment?
Right, are we adding a position or?
We sort of are, we're not really backfilling, we're adding, aren't we?
So we would add the director, and then we would remove the assistant director after her retirement, and that could be in the resolution.
And in order for that director position to be filled, there would have to be approval given by the committee
Correct.
to do that.
And you'd only be funding the overlap, which with breakage and stuff in the department, you may not have to fund anything.
So we would have a misalignment of the budget and the staffing pattern for a short period of time,
For whatever
and then when that position left, it would be fine.
Yes, sir. Because they're not looking for more money, in
Plus
theory.
the, exempt salary schedule would need to be changed too, with the title.
Right.
That whole line would need to be,
And remember, the new person would come in at base, so there would be difference between the person leaving and the person coming.
right.
It's about
What base?
The base of the new title.
about $10,000.
Yeah, just between
Right.
steps.
So there's,
So why pay for the
there will be
overtime?
considerable difference between,
How could you come at the base of the new position when she's not in the new, or he or she is not in the new position, they're in the old position? Or is the base the same?
The base would be
Yeah.
the.
Okay, I got you.
they're not looking for a pay difference, just a name difference.
Do you have a question, Brian? No. Jay? Okay, to do here is a motion to change the staffing pattern to add the Director of Patient Services,
Sunsetting the assistant at her retirement.
sunsetting
The
the assistant
Director of Patient Services.
upon retirement.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody, Dave, you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
A lot of second.
I'll second it.
Jay, all right? Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
and there's three moving pieces if you want to do them separately. There's also the authorization for the backfill, and then the amending the exempt salary schedule as well. So whenever you want to line all that up, there's kind of three moving parts.
we should do it all at once though, right? And everything would go from here right to the full board next week.
Right,
That would get you going so you can start advertising to see what you're going to.
right.
So, do we want to couple those together into one motion, or do we want to do them separately?
Your choice.
We could do them here and then figure out what works best when it comes to the full board, right?
And the exempt salary schedule has to go to finance, right?
It's not like it's in front of us. We're just moving the whole board.
That one has to go to finance, I think, right?
Yeah.
So, A, we'll move the position to be created to the full board next week.
Staffing pattern change,
Right,
Second, we'll move the change in the
exempt
exempt
salary
salary schedule to finance for next month.
for today.
Oh, for today?
Right after this.
You got it that quick? You're efficient, are you sure?
Not sure, but I'll know in a few minutes.
Okay. And what was the third part, Al?
the
Authorize the
backfill.
To authorize the backfill. So, we have a motion and a second on the first part, right? All in favor? Opposed, carried. A motion to move to finance for the,
Exempt salary.
exempt salary schedule. Moved by Jay, seconded by Dave. Sorry, Cassie, I keep seeing you there, but they're quicker than you are. You're on tape delay. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed, carried. And the third part is to backfill,
Authorize the backfill,
authorize the backfill of the Assistant Director of Patient Services.
which will actually be the Director of Patient Services. You're authorizing a backfill of the new position.
Move it.
Okay. Moved by Brian, seconded by Cassie. Okay. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay, so,
Thanks, Chair.
yeah, mechanically, we're started on that, and you and Tina will keep us updated on where we stand and how we go forward on that.
Yes,
But we will come back to Sue's committee first and then here regarding any shadowing and
yes,
timetables and budgeting and all that stuff.
yes.
Great. Okay?
Okay, I just have two more little things. The county lifestyle improvement program is still in full swing. We have currently 121 individuals signed up to receive the emails for Clerk, and we've had 2 programs so far this year that have been successful. 25 participants for our walking challenge, and there's 33 participants right now for a water challenge, which is drinking 64 ounces of water a day. So, we plan on having these throughout the year. We do have a Facebook page if you are all interested in going to the Facebook page and joining. It's called Washco Clip. And I just wanted to let you know that we're still, out there doing some good things for the employees.
Who decides what the challenges are gonna be?
The personnel office just kind of makes things up as we go. Yeah.
This last one, I think it cost us quite a lot, lost time.
Running to the bathroom.
So I can tell you,
Right.
in 52, this challenge has been a little bit different than it would have been a couple years ago.
And our last thing is, a late backfill, for public health. It's an account clerk due to a resignation.
Well, and that happened after
That happened,
HHS committee.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so looking for a motion for a backfill for an account clerk. Dave, second Brian. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And that's all that I had.
We're good on the agenda? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Melissa, anything?
No, all set?
Mr. Hicks,
I'm sorry.
would you want to mention, the meeting time? You want us to sit?
Oh, right, exactly, thank you. So, we're into March already, but we've been sort of working through schedules to see when the best meeting times are for all the committees. And last month and this month at 9:30 before finance seems to work. So looking for input from the committee or even any other supervisor on whether this 9:30 on Thursdays of finance works for everybody, or should we consider piggybacking someplace else? Yeah. Anybody? What do you think? Is 9:30 Thursday working?
Yes.
Anybody opposed to it or have an issue with it? All right. Debbie, I like we're going to stay at 9:30 on Thursdays of finance.
Okay.
All right, great. Any other business to come before the personnel committee? Brian?
Well, the personnel committee was quite involved in where our salaries went to this year, and I really want to commend them because I'd like to know where we'd be right now with our employees with the amount of inflation. It just happened to be the salaries kicked in at the same time that inflation really kicked into the high gear. And with our Washington County employers already up close to 10% top in the state as of July of last year, we were a little behind, but it kind of hit right when things went really right. And as Al would say, we might be right for all the wrong reasons, but it sure makes it a lot more palatable that we did the right thing at the right time. And kudos to the fair for making that all happen because it's quite important right now.
Dana?
I'd like to remind the budget office that our constituents are the taxpayers that live in the county, not necessarily the people employed in this building.
No,
And they're not getting an increase to help them fight inflation.
Of course, that's according to what was printed. It says that Washington County employers were the highest in the state as of July of last year, up nearly 10%. So they got it before our employees got it, which means our employees would have went those other places if we not given it to them. Because when it comes to choosing between feeding your family, making it to work, those are tough decisions to make. And if everyone else has got 10% more than you, it's easier to switch.
Instead of debating the policy, you're just saying congratulations to these two people who are doing the work that they did, and that's your main point.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else to come before the committee this morning? All right. We are adjourned, and we're heading right into finance, Debbie?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, right, yeah.
I knew there were a lot.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Exactly.
I like it. The attendance looks better, I think.
I don't really believe that right now, do you?
Like a puzzle for you, huh, Deb?
So well.
Thank you.
They're ready, thanks for this one, right? Did you have breakfast?
Hey, good you're here, Dana.
Last year,
I don't think we're needed, are we?
Yeah.
We are.
Okay.
I thought mine said 10 o'clock.
You're still live.
I didn't think it said a meeting.
We weren't gonna start without you.
You may wish you could.
$58
What's the price I paid for you on your credit? I was being accurate.
You're not gonna mention the raise the age thing, right? I'd rather maybe, yeah. Thank you.
Are you behind the bill?
What do you need? Yeah, mine. You're welcome.
Well, maybe there's something I'll learn then.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. We're all set. We'll call the finance meeting to order, and my first part of business will be accept the minutes of the February 10th meeting.
So moved.
Moved by James Griffith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Kathy Bethler. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Okay, treasurer.
About The only thing that I have to share with the committee this morning is, we continue to be trending up in our sales tax. I've also included in your packet some gas price revenue information that was released by NISAC that I thought was kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see if there is any state and federal relief given on the sales taxes and the excise taxes, what impact that will have going forward for our share of those monies, because we're significantly impacted. As you can tell by the chart that was in your packet, you can see the impact on Washington County over the years of the increasing in gas prices. So it unfortunately is not going to be probably enough to offset some of the other burdens that's going to be placed on the budget, but that's something that we'll see as we move forward. Right now, we're 24.52% over the same time last year. If we're flat for the rest of the year, we're looking at 26.7. If we stay, just flat over last year, 5% puts us at 27.3, 3% puts us at 26.8, and 10% puts us at 28.6. Where in that range we're going to fall could be anyone's guess. And based on the delay in payments, I think that you're going to see this growth. I think you'll see sustained through the first and second quarters because of the lag in the distributions. Third and fourth quarter is really going to tell the tale. What'll be interesting is the distribution to the towns, remember, goes through July 31st. So I think that right now you're at $1.1 million sitting in March with 4 more months to go. So the 1.7 we distributed to the towns last year, unless there's a major catastrophe in our sales tax, is going to go up. You all will be receiving more money in your distributions next year. Whether that helps offset some of the increased cost for you, it's hard to tell, because with increasing gas prices, I'm sure that you're going to have to come to this committee in the near future and tell them that there's nowhere near enough money in the 22 budget to cover Deb's. There's no way Deb has enough in her fuel lines to cover the 22 costs. It's almost impossible that she would have got that right in July of last year, anticipated this increase. So it'll be interesting to see. Even though our revenues are up, it may not bring our net cost down. It may just keep us afloat. So that makes sense.
And what was very interesting in the fuel report, because I did see it earlier, we topped out just shy of $2 million in our highest year, and our lowest year just a couple of years ago, we bottomed out at 1.2 something. So there's only which is kind of interesting, but it was $700,000 difference between the high and the low. So it's not even $1 million out of our 26 million, which surprised me a little. I thought it might be involved more than that. But it looks like it could top $2 million this year just from people having to drive to work, not doing anything extra. The price has gone a little nuts here.
And I'm glad Mr. Hicks is sitting down, because the next two items are actually, positives. Our cash flow is actually doing rather well right now, and that's encouraging, because we're going to have some conversations moving forward about some capital expenditures. We dropped $5 million into the capital plan for 2 barns, and you all got a presentation at Public Works about what the cost was actually going to be for just the 1 barn. So we're going to be having some conversations about some capital investments in the future, and whether or not we want to borrow for them or pay cash. So we might be in a really good, we might be able to negotiate from a position of strength for a change, and I really like that.
Can you knock out one right now?
Pardon? And the other thing that I'm happy to report, even though it wasn't on time to make a difference, is it does look like some of the Marshall money is starting to flow. So we've gotten some of the smaller distributions, which were some of the older claims. So it looks like we're starting to get some of that money moving through the pipeline, and that will also have a big impact on whether or not we have to borrow. My goal would be, so the $5 million that we borrowed last year to fund the road projects and bridge projects because the Marshall was coming in so slow, actually not at all. We were able to retire, I'm down to like 2.2 on the renewal. So we were able to pay some of that down. And that's really going to help just fund that Shushan the Shushin replacement this year. And, next year, it's my hope that we don't renew that for anything. I don't wanna renew that 2.2 next year. I wanna be able to pay that off, and if Marshall flows like it's supposed to, we'll be able to retire that ban completely. So there may be just one more interest payment that we have to deal with on the road and bridge projects. And that would be great, because I don't like borrowing for regular road and bridge projects. It seems counterintuitive, but, we didn't have a choice in this area, so.
And how about tax collections from the towns? What are you,
So that was the last piece. I don't know what the other towns' collections look like, but I know that this year, for the first time, I'm collecting for the town of Fort Ann, and I've been really impressed with their collections. I'm just a tick over 90% collected through February 28th, and I think that's a fantastic number. I was really encouraged. I hope that the other 16 towns are coming in as well as Fort Ann was. They were like 83% collected in the month of January. That to me is fantastic. So,
Yeah, we just sent out late notices, and it was half what we did last year.
that's great to hear, because collecting for Fort Ann, I'm seeing behind the curtain for the first time, and the collections this year, I think, were quite encouraging. So when they turn over in April, I would expect to see a smaller delinquent number, and that would be wonderful, because, that 17% interest and penalties is accrued after a year. You is 0% if you pay on time. So hopefully some homeowners were in a position that they were able to pay on time and alleviate those interest and penalty items. And, the homeowners assistance program that I spoke to you briefly about last month, it looks like they're done taking applications on that. I've only received one from Washington County from the town of Granville. So I don't know if there wasn't a lot of publicity out there about it, because I was surprised to see only one request come across my desk for that program. But we didn't find out about it until, it seems like it was mid-December before we even knew it was a thing, and it was released in September or August or something like that. So I don't know that it was well publicized, but there is still an opportunity to join a wait list. So while they're not taking applications at this time, they are taking a wait list of names where you can go in, and if there's still funds left over after this first batch of applications is processed, then they'll activate the wait list. But right now, you can only join a wait list. You can't actually submit an application. And I am moving forward with the foreclosure process. The 2019 certified letters will be going out next week. We began stuffing those yesterday. There's quite a bit, more than normal, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens, and we're pushing forward with the 2018s. I think I advised you last month that municipalities are still required to have the one-on-one conferences, and we still had over 80 parcels on the 18s that should have gone to auction in October of 2020. So I'm gonna, the law still requires me to sit down with one-on-one with each of those homeowners. So that process is gonna take a little time to get through. So when we can have a 2018 auction is still up in the air, but.
And that's their option?
Yeah, they can decline to come, but I have to offer it to every, if there's 85 people, I've got to extend that.
You send it to 85, you might get 35, might get all 85.
Right, the unfortunate thing is I don't know if the one-on-one meeting makes it better or worse, because even when they come to see me, especially with the homeowners assistance fund being closed down temporarily, I don't really have, I can walk through the timeline with them, I can walk through the process with them, I can tell them some of their options, but there's not a lot that will come from that meeting. I'm going to be working closely with the Director of Real Property Tax Services to make sure that if there's anything that they're entitled to, that that they've got all their exemptions in place, and, she'll be able to help them going forward, to make sure that everything that they should have gotten, they got. So we'll be working together to make sure that they're in the best position that they can be, and,
Well, your calming effect will help. It always helps when I go see you.
well, yes, I'm sure I calm you right down.
Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, along the same lines but different. We've had our town, tax collector said several people ask about the credit card issue again. And I said, we don't do it, but I don't remember where that ended up. Was that something that was going to be looked into or never gonna, we decided not to do it? What, I don't know what to tell the people, that's all.
Well, I can't control what the town does. We collect credit cards.
Oh, you do pay with credit card?
Absolutely, we've done it for 15 years.
So they can come up here and pay their taxes with credit card?
Absolutely, not the current year.
That's what I'm talking, the current year.
You have, your collector has to do their
But
own.
after March?
After April 1st, they can
Yeah.
come up and pay by credit card, yes.
They can, okay, great.
Yeah, they've been able to do that for over 15 years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
And
good to know.
we've offered, because we're collecting for Fort Ann, we've extended that. So Fort Ann has the ability to pay by credit card because we're collecting for them. And each town would have the ability to sign up with their own credit card vendor and accept payments.
And just to clarify that, though, they pay the charge that the credit card company would get on top of the tax.
Right, so you'll only want to hire a credit card company that passes the fee on
Yes.
to the user.
The fee goes on top, so they're paying,
Oh, I'm not gonna do credit card.
No, I'm just wanting you to know that we're not absorbing that fee. That fee is paid by the person paying the tax.
And it's only like $1.50 or something to do an e-check. So if you're just gonna have the money drawn out of your checking account, an e-check is a very, cost-effective way to get that taken care of right from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to drive to the office.
So Dane is before me, but I haven't got to.
I have a couple comments. Al, when you were talking about you have to sit down with the people before you foreclose,
Yes, sir.
are errors ever discovered in favor of the taxpayer? You say there's nothing you can do, but is an error ever discovered?
We have, in my career, I've seen a couple times where, like a school has turned over a parcel as unpaid, and the person's been able to show me a canceled check where it was paid. But that's the only thing I've run across in my career.
Well, and we've seen lots of resolutions that correct them here.
My second comment is for Dan, but he just left the room, is the town of Hartford, we tried to have a electronic card reader, and even we were told that the town will never receive a bill, we won't pay anything, the customer will pay it all, but there's a middle merchant man fee that we were never told about, and we did start getting bills, and so we decided to stop it, because if we are collecting taxes using credit card, and then we have to pay a fee, we actually do not collect all of our taxes because we're paying a fee on top of that. And we were promised that we would never get a fee, and then when we got this fee, they say, oh, that wasn't us. That's the middle merchant fee.
And the company that I use, Express Pay, they have a product, they have two different products, and one of the products, they take all of that for you. So there is a way to get into that world if you want to talk about it later. If you want to look at it again, there is a fee-free solution.
We might look at it again because we get a lot of people that want to pay lots of things with credit card, hunting licenses, all those other things, not just tax.
And we find a lot of people that have second homes in Washington County that don't necessarily live here. They want to be able to just go on and pay it and be done with it.
When does the 5% penalty kick in?
April 1st.
So I can pay it non-credit card on March 28th, but if I wait till April 1st to pay in credit card, I'm paying 5% more.
Plus the fee.
Unless you're in Fort Ann.
Why would you, that's hell of a price to pay just to use your credit card, isn't it? I wish Dan was here to hear that, because I don't want him going back and telling people in Easton, oh, yeah, wait till April 1st, and you can pay your credit card. Then they get walloped for,
And that's why,
$40 or $50.
but that's why, basically what Dana said, they gave him the opportunity, but it ended up there was a middleman fee that he wasn't expecting because of the routes in the world, but there is a way to do that, so you can have that at your own town if you want it.
Right.
What we are,
Costing us $700 a year, and we said, we're not gonna do it.
So, second question I had for you. Over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of things that have been intercepted out of our sales tax. Right? There was AIM, then there wasn't AIM, there was part AIM, then there was hospital, medical. Right. Where do we stand on all that, or can you tell with the new budget coming out in April? So are there still interceptions?
the proposed budget,
Yeah.
if it passes,
Right,
alleviates the AIM intercept. And that goes back to a completely state cost,
which is great for the county.
which is great for the county.
How about other interceptions?
So there hasn't been any talk that I've heard yet about the hospitals, unfortunately.
It's happened in the past.
And it's coming bigger.
Right now, it's still scheduled to continue.
Okay, that's my question.
And the other thing, remember, is that if this budget passes, that the budget officer brought up, I think it was last month, the Hudson River, Black River is going to be state funded. That's in the proposed budget as well. So there are two pieces of that budget that will directly help.
Round numbers, how much is the Hudson River, Black River? One twenty-eight?
140, 130?
130,
138, I
And
think.
how much is,
153,
and how much
138.
is the intercept for the hospitals? Has it been?
Was it
290, no, 250.
Two hundred, okay.
It might be on the bottom of your sheet.
No, I don't need to know, just ballpark.
Wait a minute.
Ballpark figures.
Yeah, no, I don't have,
Yeah, it's on your sheet, Al, March 5th, 2021, 126,990 was taken, and after that, it was 33,000. Yeah, so that's what it is, it's 126 yearly.
the 126 is the annual amount.
It's almost a wash. They're still taking the hospital money out, but we're getting the hospital back money out, they're almost washed numbers.
Well, and the 195 is.
No, well, the aim is a lot.
Oh, yeah, right, but those two almost wash, and then the 195 and in that you're gonna get that you didn't get before.
No, there's a lot more on that's an aim, right?
That's
Because you got the villages too.
Oh, the villages was 97.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's a lot more, yeah, and the one I didn't, or haven't been able to follow up on is the money to public health that they could pay benefits out of now. Was there more money coming, or was it, you still only get this much money?
So-
That one I don't know the answer to
Yeah,
yet.
the Title VI, that's the big funding for our public health. We were told by Tina that she can claim fringe now, but if she can claim more expenses, but they haven't increased her award,
Right.
there's still no, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, if you're already using it all, what difference?
We're already
does it make?
maxing out our award, an additional eligible expenses doesn't really help, but if they're gonna raise the award and allow it to claim fringe, that's a game changer.
Until they pass the budget, it's hard to follow.
There's a lot of
because things
reforms.
change.
It's all good news today, Alan.
Yeah, and even the early intervention stuff, there's some reforms in place that if
You need to knock on wood too. Yeah.
On the credit card, how does the county deal with consumer error? You know, putting in, transposing numbers and putting in less than the tax?
So the product that I use,
Yeah.
you actually select your bill.
Oh,
So that when you select your bill, the number comes up. There's no
no consumer error.
as long as they pull up the bill right. So the only thing that I have seen is, so we have one category, it's called treasurer's fees,
Yeah.
where we allow like attorneys to pay for their tax searches and stuff. We have seen, taxpayers in the past grab that treasurer's fees instead of the tax bill, and that can create some errors, but we've been pretty lucky, on that side of it.
Nobody's hit it twice and paid you double or anything?
No.
Any other questions on that?
Not on that specifically, mortgage tax, the mortgage tax is up.
I wouldn't doubt that. I haven't seen the numbers yet, but when I do the semi-annual report for Dad,
The real property is so high right
I
now.
was surprised a lot of our purchases over in Argyle have been cash purchases. So I was concerned that our mortgage tax was gonna drop, but it looks, still like the number is actually up, so.
Yeah, I can grab that number before the end of the meeting if it's helpful to you.
Okay. I just, it's a curiosity and also, see if we can't pay off our HCC debt a little faster.
Timing was perfect on the ACC debt
Yes,
with the bonding, because we may never see that opportunity at that rate again.
timing would have been perfect, it was 5 years before, but, no. But it was good timing.
Okay. Was that the end of your report?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Well, we like good news. I'd rather keep you talking.
No, because eventually it'll turn, so.
Well, it's coming right now. Hartford School. Were you gonna?
Is that on the agenda, because it said a re-levy, and this is not a re-levy. So, but,
It doesn't say re-levy on mine. It says bill on parcel property the school purchased in November of 18 unpaid.
okay, you have
And
a
it got
different.
paid last
I
week.
saw last night.
Oh.
Okay,
I got yours.
Andy Cook is here, the Hartford superintendent. Just to, give you a precursor of what he's gonna talk about. In November 8th, I think it was, 2018, the Hartford Central School purchased about a 3-acre parcel across the street from the school. So at that time, the parcel went from a taxable status to a non-taxable status, theoretically, because the school is not taxable, the property that they own.
It's only theoretically. You were right. You said it right.
You can continue telling me I'm right each time I say something. It makes me happy that you say that.
Well, theoretically, not
Yes,
financially.
theoretically, so that's the crux of the issue that we're talking about. So when Laura Chadwick happened to speak to Andy Cook at a basketball game and said, oh, did you know that your parcel that you bought is gonna be on the foreclosure list? Well, tax exempt parcel on a foreclosure list is kind of odd. I spoke to Andy, Andy called me about it, I called Al. Al looked on his records and it said that according to the treasurer's records, the parcel is still owned by Mr. Reinman, who is who the school purchased it from. I spoke to Laura Chadwick, she said that real property, they knew that the school owned it back in 2018. Treasurer, up till maybe just about a week and a half ago, still thought the previous owner owned it. So, if there was a tax bill sent, maybe it went to Reinman. The school never saw a tax bill because as of January 1, 2019, when you pay your town and county taxes for that coming year, the school never got a bill. Maybe that bill went to the previous owner. But each subsequent year, the school never got a bill for, say, 2020, 2021. The school never got a bill. But yet the county is accruing interest each month for almost 3.5 years on the parcel. And the owner never even knew they had a tax bill come in. They didn't know they owned principal, penalty, interest, but yet the county is accruing interest every single month. And the county knew that the school owned it. Real property knew, but the treasurer never knew. There's a disconnect between...
Well, who's your attorney?
Who's your attorney?
No, for the school, because usually they do that at the closing.
Well, Andy, would you like to come up and...
Chairman, can I just clear one piece of that real quick?
Yep.
So, there would be no other communication from my office.
Right.
There are no other bills that come out. After that January bill came out, there would be no other communication from my office, because as of March 1st of that year, it would have become a tax exempt property.
Yep.
So there would be no other communication from me. I just want to be clear on that.
Right.
But we are...
I didn't send anything to the old address because there is nothing to send.
But the interest every single month.
Right, but there's nothing I send to anyone about the accruing interest. Nobody gets a notice of that.
Well, but I could see if the parcel went from taxable status to taxable status, which normally happens. Somebody's responsible for a bill, the old owner needs to tell the new owner, but that new owner the next year would also get a bill.
No.
He would still get his next year's bill.
No. Based on the timing, that's not true. And Laura can speak to that issue.
Now, if I buy a piece of property in November of 2018,
you may not get the bill in January.
but the next year, will I not get the next year's tax bill?
No, there wouldn't have been a next year's bill.
No. Me, if the property went from taxable status to taxable status, then I would get another tax bill the next year.
In year 2.
Yes.
Yes.
It wouldn't be re-levied, I would get a new bill.
Yes.
Okay. But the school never got a bill.
There wouldn't be another bill.
But yet, why are you accruing interest every single month? You want your cake and eat it too. And I don't think it's right.
Well, the interest and penalties is on the bill that came out 2 months after they bought the property. And they should have been advised about that at their closing.
Right.
But yet, your office, or Laura's office, somebody is accruing interest on tax exempt property for 3.5 years on the old bill. If the school would have gotten in the next year, if the school would have gotten a bill, it would have said, whoa,
There is no bill in the second year.
Not tax exempt property, that first.
There is no second bill.
The first
Because
year is
it's
still
tax
taxable
exempt.
property.
As of March
But then
1st.
why are you accruing interest up until even right now?
Because you
That
have to pay
original
the
bill
closing.
accrues interest until it's paid or we foreclose. That's the way the law works.
Okay. The school could have, Andy could have driven out of the school parking lot, drove past that property, saw a county sign foreclosure notice, and that would have been the first time they would have been noticed.
No.
No.
Andy would have gotten, so we're sending out notices now, next week, for the 19th. He would have been noticed in that run of notices.
Not if you had your old information, you would have sent it to Ryan.
Our abstract picked it up. That's how Laura knew that he was on the foreclosure.
When I spoke to you, you pulled up on your computer, and I'm spoken to you, you said, oh, our owner is Ryman.
The computer,
That was
the
like
owner,
February 25th.
the owner of record in my system still shows the old owner because no new bills have been generated. But if you look at the interested parties, so the October certified mailing goes to all interested parties. His name came up in our abstract of title. That's why we do an abstract of title. That's how Laura knew this parcel was headed to foreclosure. He would have gotten a certified mail next week. That would have been his first notice that that parcel was up for foreclosure.
Well, I think we need to do something with our software updated because you have a tax exempt property that has interest accruing each month for almost 3.5 years now.
But they should have been told that they're closing, that their bill was coming out.
Yeah, the school's attorney should have even.
I understand what you're saying. I get it. It feels blatantly unfair. But they should have been told that they're closing, that 2 months later, there's going to be a bill generated.
But I agree with you. What's unfair is that Washington County says, for whatever reason there is, we are not wrong. It doesn't matter what the issue is.
Because I can only follow the law.
I mean, the mafia would love to have these rules, that it doesn't matter what you say or.
But I can't operate outside the law, Mr. Hepp. I have to do what it says.
No, but this county can waive interest.
You as a legislative body can do that. I cannot.
I don't think we can, now correct me if I'm right, Laura. The county cannot waive the principal,
No.
which is, I think, $307.
It's a legitimate tax bill.
The county cannot waive the principal. I don't even know if the county can waive the penalties.
The 5% is not a waiver.
A penalty to somebody who is tax exempt. But I think the county can waive the interest, because here, there was a failure to notify the property owner that they have interest accruing on a tax exempt parcel.
But again, under section 922 of the real property tax law, it specifically says, failure to receive your bills does not alleviate you from it or its interest and penalties. Somebody took the time to write that in the law. We operate within those structures. You have to understand, I get this phone call all the time. This will open up a floodgate of people who told me they didn't get their bill, and they will be coming to you to have their interest and penalties.
Well, maybe that's the right thing to do.
Well, you as a board will be able to deal with that. I'm just saying, you will get flooded, because I get this call all the time.
Warren County has something, I don't know what they call it, the cry-in court, the mercy court. Warren County looks at the interest issue. They even have a committee that does it. We don't even look at it all. We say, regardless of the reason, tough luck.
You as a body can institute that. I cannot.
Now, Al, is it correct, you say, failure to receive your bill is not reason you not to pay?
That's what the law says.
But isn't there something that says failure to notify is a reason not to pay? And I'm talking, because my town clerk, she read the thing, she goes, oh, it says right here, failure to notify is not a reason, but that's on the subsequent bill. What about failure to notify on the original bill? Did we notify anybody?
That's what
Yes,
922 says.
We did. A bill was sent to David and Cynthia Ryman at P.O. Box 115, Elizabethtown, New York.
And
On the
until
back of the
February
bill-
1st, they would be the
Right,
owners of record.
and they're the owners of record. When the bill was printed, the transfer hadn't been recorded in the real property system because of a timing issue. The back of the bill, it says, if this property has been sold, you are required to forward this statement to the new owner. Neglect or failure to pay this tax may result in the seizure and sale of this property to satisfy the unpaid delinquent tax.
When, you say when the bill was printed?
When the bill was
The bills
printed.
go out
And,
as like, they're payable January 1.
right.
But printed, they could have been printed 3 months previous.
No,
So
we
there
can't
is a
print,
lag in our
no, we can't print the
technology.
bills until you guys approve the
No,
tax
they're not
rate.
printed
I mean,
until
pretty much.
the week of December.
Second week of December when we get the re-levies and
When did
everything.
real property know that there was a transfer?
When did real property know?
Before the bills were mailed out? Now, I'm not talking about when the
No.
bills were printed. When did real property know?
Real property knew, well, I mean, the transfer came through November 18th, probably. We got it shortly after that. It was filed at the county clerk's office. We don't go through every single transfer and look at every single bill and see who owns it and who doesn't own it at taxable
Well,
status.
I would think if a property changes its taxable status, theoretically again, because it doesn't really
It
happen
doesn't
until March.
change its taxable status until March 1st.
I
That's
said
taxable
theoretically.
status. Okay.
Okay. You've got a lot of people in your office, Al has people in his office, he does title searches and abstracts, but I think in this case, it went from taxable status to non-taxable. That's where this is different from it going from a taxable status to a taxable status. This went to non-taxable. So as of January 1, the county is expecting a tax exempt payer to pay a bill.
So that has
yeah.
happened in other instances. It's happened with the town of Granville. They bought a town hall. The North Granville Fire Company bought a house to burn. The Village of Whitehall bought a property that was a delinquent that they took over and they cleaned up. It's happened in the last 5 years 3 times.
Well, then I think we
So
should
it
wipe out their interest. I don't think we paid our bill on time, we didn't have any interest.
Right. So they would know, Matt got a hold of us, hey, we're buying the Manchester News
My attorney
property or
said-
whatever.
My attorney said,
You need to
Get
make
that
sure you
bill,
get that
you gotta
bill
pay it.
and get it paid. So I said, okay, let me know, we'll print a copy and we'll pay it. But we can't look at every single person that's sold in Washington
And
County.
in your scenario, that means the IDA would be off the hook
Right.
for their money, for their property down here because it went to non-taxable status. Same idea?
Yes, but their old bill was not, because their old bill was sent to something that was not taxable.
Right,
And so,
same thing.
Part of
It's
confusion
the same idea.
is what tax status date is
March first.
March
first, and nothing can change until March
Until March first.
going forward,
If the IDA bought property on March second,
the only thing that
it'd still
changes,
be taxable until next March first.
there's only certain instances, and that's federal property, post offices. A lot of post offices in Washington County are owned by individuals, and they lease it to the post office. Pretty much that's the only thing. Even if New York State buys property, they still have to pay taxes on it. So towns, counties, schools, villages, state, nonprofits, they don't become exempt until after March first. And they have taxes out there,
Right. It would seem like this would be a responsibility of the closing attorney. And so, I'm not even sure why it's here. What are we talking about?
Talking because the county has been adding 1% per month interest on this for 3 years, 3 months.
From the lack of someone's attorney that didn't do their job. There's nothing I can do about that.
Oh,
Yeah, what's the total bill?
it's not a lot of money, it's the principal here, the principal amount of money that was owed is, I think, $307 and change. And because of the interest that's been piled on, the interest is, almost $270. The bill now is $576.
Well, $150 of that is the abstract fee, which is how we discovered them as the owner. It's not all interest. There's a $150 abstract fee in there. Everybody that has to get abstracted by us gets charged $150.
Is that included in the interest or the penalty?
Andy, can you go to a
Yeah.
speaker so that we can see you on Zoom additionally?
So,
The only,
the tax bill itself is $300.
You have to come to this side, Andy.
Okay.
Just, thank you.
This is Andy Cookie, Central School Superintendent.
Yeah, and thank you for taking the time to discuss this on behalf of the Board of Education members for our district. Just, the district's not debating the fact that we owe $307.18 taxes, according to the New York State tax law, because the property ownership doesn't change until March first, so therefore we're still responsible for it. My concern, the concern of the Board of Education, is that, as Mr. Half said, we're being charged penalty and interest for 3 years, and we were never notified of the fact that we had this tax bill coming. If there had been any kind of notification within the past 3 years, I mean, we've paid the bill now, full charge, just to make sure that everything gets squared away. If we had been properly notified, we would have paid that and there wouldn't be any charges. So again, I would advocate that at least, we'll pay the penalty, we'll pay the 5% penalty, that's fine. But the interest that's been accumulating has been out of our control, whether the closing attorney should have notified us that we should have been in contact with the county ahead of time for the closing bill. I find it hard to believe that within the past 3.5 years, there wasn't some mechanism to say, look, there's this tax bill that's been outstanding, and there's been no communication with the owner of this property to be able to rectify this situation.
so, there has been no notification because I've not been allowed to.
The state hasn't allowed it.
So, as soon as the moratorium went in, because of COVID, I couldn't send anything to anybody. There has been no opportunity for me to notify anybody that they have delinquent taxes. I would have been held extremely accountable by the state had I broke that moratorium. There's been no opportunity for me to notify you. You should have been told at your closing that a bill was coming out in January. I can't help that. And there's been nothing to any resident of the county in the past 2 years.
Right, but
Not just you.
when did that moratorium go into place?
March of 2020.
Right, so in a year and a half, though.
Well, they don't go out the first year.
There's no notices until November of that first year, so there's nothing
Could have been.
that goes to anybody. No.
Right, but we could have gotten it in
Couldn't have
November of 2019.
I don't just randomly issue notices to people. There's a timeline. There's a timeline that we follow
Right,
by
like
law.
you said, you could have. I mean, and the fact that
I could have.
I had no notification, I know you're saying we're gonna get a certified letter. But as a school district, as a public entity that we're trying to be financial stewards of the community's investment in the district, to find out, oh, by the way, your property is going to be foreclosed upon because of an unpaid tax bill from 3 years ago that we never received, is a lot to swallow.
But I don't know.
And I'm not saying, I'm not looking to set precedent, I'm not looking to, I understand, I work within very strict confinements too. The only thing that I'm looking for, and again, it's not a lot of money, and I know it could set a precedent moving forward, we deal with that all the time.
And that's the problem, Gary, is we have the same,
We'll pay the penalty, no problem, we'll pay the tax, but that compounding interest is what's really hang up for us.
so we have the same, you just specified exactly what our job is here too. We have the same fiduciary duties. If we open that gate for you, then we have to say, oh, but all entities are more important than our actual citizens. We can't really do that here.
Well, and I'm definitely not saying that.
I know you're not saying that, but that's what it would say to those people. So we can't do that because of that.
My only counter to that would be that we can clearly demonstrate that the district received no notification of the tax bill.
And the law states it does not matter.
But Brian, we have done that. The village of Fort Edward, we waived their interest. Correct?
Village, town, and school.
Village, town, and school. So you can't say we can't do it. We do it periodically.
I'm not sure it was
It's just by the will of this board, if you want to do it or not. So when you say you can't, yes, you can.
Okay, and like I said, I'm not disputing the tax bill itself or the penalty, but the interest has been compounded. And again, there's been situations with the COVID and the moratorium, but we're still financially responsible for that, and it's been out of our control.
Yeah, and we have 3 years coming to once, and if we open a floodgate when they're all coming to once, we're in deep trouble.
So just to be clear, if this legislative body wants to waive the interest, $60 or whatever it is, it can do that. But let the record show that it's not for lack of us doing our job. We've followed the law to the letter. I just want that to be clear. There's nothing additional that I could have legally done for you. I need to be clear on that.
Yep.
I think we've all got a pretty good handle on what the law is and where it fell through the cracks and how this happened and everything, and I don't see any fault or blame here. I guess the question is Dana making a motion to waive the interest? Dana's making a motion to do that, let him make a motion and go forward. You know, we can talk about this until Thursday if we want.
Well, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate your time and consideration.
And we appreciate when people bring these things forward because it makes us respond in better ways, but there's not much we can do here but tax.
Alex, this had happened in 2015, would they have been notified? And that, well before the sign went up on the line? Pre-COVID?
Yes.
Okay, so it's compounded by the COVID issue. There's a whole series of things that lined up in the wrong time at the wrong space. Okay?
Before,
And what you're saying is you shouldn't be responsible, it's not your fault. We're saying it's not responsible because it's not our fault. Because the situation was developed in those parameters,
In a
this
non-COVID
is what fell
year,
through the cracks.
in a non-COVID year, by November of that year, he would have been notified.
Okay, so the system, Dana, once this COVID thing is issued and the state gets back to reality, the system does work, it will work, the things are in place. So I don't think we need to make a radical change between Al and Laura.
Well, I think the system sucks, but that's New York State tax law.
But that's a bigger problem.
Okay, I have one more question. I know it's a lot to ask you. Tax bill, interest, penalties, abstract fee. Get a grip on those numbers.
In about a minute and a half, I can be back here with those numbers.
Is that reasonable? Should you have that information?
Well, yes, because if I'm gonna make a resolution, I'd like to know what the.
I think I have it.
I have a question for, Mr. Cook before he leaves. Brian's trying to throw his attorney under the bus a little bit, but Andy, could you tell us who the attorney was?
Bartlett, Pontiff, Stewartson Rhodes.
Who was the individual?
Is our attorney, Larry Pelchwitz is our attorney.
Did he advise you at closing that there was no tax bills coming or anything?
No, we were not advised at closing that a forthcoming county or tax bill would be coming.
Tina Hogan?
Is there any recourse to Larry, Bartlett, Ponce, and Rhodes?
I'm not sure.
Got it.
No.
Okay. Yeah, before we make a request,
So the interest,
having us make our changes.
the interest is $113.66, and the penalty is $155.47.
150 of which is the abstract fee.
So the penalty is $5 out of that.
The penalty is $5. That's 5% of 100.
It's a mailing fee, it would go to the penalty count. The 5% becomes part of the base. That's why it's not waivable, it becomes part of the base.
You're talking $118?
The abstract fee is part of the 5%.
No, the abstract fee is part of that
It's
155
part of the
penalty.
penalty. Yeah, and I'm not disputing the penalty. Like, obviously, we didn't pay prior to March 1st. My concern is just that interest. And again, it's not a lot of money, but I felt the obligation, especially being responsible for the taxpayers of Hartford and the Board of Education.
Now, could you tell us what is in our purview to waive, what the dollar amount? I have like $118.
So the real property tax law will allow you to waive the interest amount if you so choose.
Is $113?
$136.
$136.
Right. All right. That would be my motion.
In
And I make that motion, and as Dana Hogan said, well, maybe there could be some recourse to the attorney. But I would make that motion for resolution, and when it comes to the monthly Board of Supervisors meeting, if there's something changed about that, then I could, withdraw that motion.
I'm going to finish my answer. The $150 abstract fee is a county-imposed fee, which means the county would also have the ability to waive that.
Okay, can you give me a grand total number?
163.26 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or 263.
That fee is to pay our fee.
It's to pay, yeah, that means we're not saying
But
about
if I was to make a motion, I have to have a dollar amount.
You could say,
Hello?
We're still talking, Kathy, we're not gonna let you interrupt while we're still talking.
I know, but my hand was up forever. Poor Dana Hogan, his hand was up long before mine. I'm just, because there's no set motion on the floor yet, I'm gonna say I'm absolutely against this. I don't want to set the precedent. Closing attorneys absolutely tell you that you have to be, that this is gonna happen. The mechanism works, so you know that your property owed taxes before it went through a foreclosure auction. And I am in no way supportive of opening the floodgates for this, because this has an excuse, then the next person will have an excuse, they haven't had a job, then there'll be an excuse there as COVID. In my opinion, the system did work. Al worked within the state law, and the mechanism kicked it out before the school drives by and finds out the property changed hands. So I'm not in support of removing anything.
Can I make a motion, or do you have other, because people can still comment after I make a motion. Different ways to have it. Roger, Roger, comment after I make.
Go ahead, Roger.
That's what the number is.
I want to do it.
No,
I want to do it.
Al said I'm not gonna have a number, the motion will be that the county waives the interest and abstract fee.
Okay, we got Roger Wicks.
I want to mention something before you do that, Mr. Half, because I want you to put the whys in your motion. What I want you to do is narrow this down so that it only applies in, this certain situation on this certain day for this certain reason, because you're already on the sled and pushing really quickly to try to go down that hill. So I'm trying to stop you from going down the hill too far by saying we're doing it because it's a school district, because like Cassie said, there's going to be 1,000,001 stories, each one better than this one, as to what happened. And it's a very unusual time. So if you're doing it because it's a municipality. I don't think you should say anything about COVID or anything else, or because it's a school district or something, or because the amount is under a certain dollar figure, but qualify it as much as you can in your motion, so that we don't just say I'm forgiving interest and penalties, and then somebody comes back and goes, well, you said you were forgiving interest and penalties. I think you need to have the whys in there. And not because they didn't get a bill, because that's not an excuse according to the law, not because of COVID, not because of anything, but because they're a school district. So there's only going to be, 9 other times that could happen, I guess. Is that how many school districts we have?
Roger, you normally write the resolution, so write that into the resolution.
Well,
I usually write my own, but this time you can write it.
see, we've had this discussion about Roger's Rules of Order, and pretty much decided it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So I like to have what you're going to see spelled out ahead of time, so that when you read things, you don't get surprised. So put those, whatever qualifiers can limit that, so that the next person that comes in doesn't meet that criteria. And I think the school district part of it and your municipal part of it certainly is the place to start, because that will obviously limit the next person that comes in, because like I said, you're on the track and you're pushing like hell to get on the proverbial slippery slope. So let's try to slow things down.
I don't mind this being a specific resolution for this specific instance. Debbie, do you have enough verbiage here? But Roger said that we have to add all these other things with my motion.
You want the county to waive the interest and abstract fee on the parcel in question because it is a school district?
Yes, I mean, Roger had a lot more,
Right.
therefore and whereas there, yes. So that is my motion. Somebody would second it.
I have a question by Mr. Henke, it looks like.
No, I think Nikki just seconded it.
No, I can't, I'm not on the committee, but I wouldn't second it, because I don't think we ought to be waiving the abstract fee. That's a cost the county has got, and it's something that, happens every time, and I think that waiving the abstract fee is a really bad idea. I guess I could support Nina's motion of,
He's on the committee.
it
hasn't been approved yet.
doing the interest. I think that's perfectly reasonable, but I think that's a bad idea to waive the abstract fee.
I could have said better. It's exactly what I was going to say.
So I have to make a disclosure. I am a reasonably high payer, or maybe I'm in the middle of Hartford school taxes. And I'm just totally opposed to this. But you need to know that I pay Hartford school taxes.
Everybody pays Hartford school taxes, should abstain.
Which is absolutely enough, so that takes care of it.
Wow, I usually don't listen to what you say anyway.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Well,
Thank you.
I'll
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Andy.
if nobody seconds this, I guess this dies. I don't want to belabor the point, but James, you almost have your hand halfway up.
He was just scratching his head because he's gonna pull his hair out in a minute, it's like any longer. Hey, I give Dana credit because if nothing else, this has been very educational for every member of the board, and we miss that component sometimes.
Andy, sorry, nobody was brave enough to second.
But there's a lot of this stuff that we need to understand, because you can stop a lot of this from snowballing just by knowing how the rules are and the laws and things like that. But this is,
Done correctly at time of close. Let's try and make it.
well, that's the biggest problem here, was just the attorneys.
The other thing I was thinking is, if it's a result of COVID, the schools definitely got COVID funds as well, so I mean, chalk it up to a COVID expense.
Yeah, that could even be a COVID expense. No, Sandy's supposed to.
Though their attorney should have notified them it was coming, that shouldn't have been accounted for at closing.
Well, lots of times it is.
Prior to the bill coming out, there's no way they could have accounted for it.
Well, lots of
They
times.
should have been advised that
Yeah.
it was a coming responsibility and liability, but I don't want anybody to think that the attorney should have said, yep, you need to pay this now, so we can get settled up so that we pay it ahead of time.
Because the bill wasn't generated yet.
No bill.
Yep.
Well, when you go to a closing, you have your attorney there to shepherd you.
And yours didn't jeopard you.
It also could have been a verbal comment nobody paid attention to, or didn't hear, or didn't understand, depending on the group of people that were there.
Yep. Any closing I've been at, which is Field, I can tell you there's always a tax implication. So, okay. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate that. Okay, budget amendments. Let's see what's next. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Albert.
That'll keep you coming with good news.
What's that?
You wear Hartford colors, I like that. You're a senator today.
Look at that.
I don't think, I'm not sure I'll be attending any sporting events.
Playing cards with me.
It is called Tuffy Manager, so, you know, you fit.
You guys are acting really bird whistle, so.
That's great. Okay, resolution, DSS, ARPA funds, is A, $112,240, for increasing the appropriation and the revenue. Motion for that. Moved by Dave, second by Jay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution B is sewer district number 2, pumps and small tools. Is there a motion for that? Moved by Jay, second by Dave. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, resolution C is public health, COVID enhancement grant, $1 million. Motion for that. Moved by Sue Clary, second by Cassie Fedler. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yep.
Brian, it says you increased the appropriation overtime at time and a half, 112,000 overtime, time and a half public health. Are these anticipated numbers, or is this what happened that this money was paid?
That's the amount of money they got and where they put it.
In this year's budget? Right, but, so we haven't spent $112,000 in overtime so far since March, January to March, right? So this is, we received money, and this is where we're gonna put it in anticipation that it'll be spent in that.
Yes.
It's just kind of weird, this is by very odd numbers. I wonder how they come to the anticipated numbers. They just say 50 hours, and that's what it is. Well, it says overtime and time and a half. I just wonder how many hours they are anticipating.
The time they applied for it, that might have been the level of overtime.
Yeah,
I think it's subsided a little bit.
A lot, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so this would pay for overtime already approved.
Only anything during the,
During that time frame, whatever that time frame is.
without getting snarky, I have not been appraised of this grant and what it's for or what the periods are, so I can't speak intelligently about it. I can only assume. And I've talked to the county administrator about talking about the grant policy again, so that these things don't come to you without.
Do we need to do this right now?
Yeah,
Do you get this, is it?
There's no harm in the resolution, I'm just being
Yeah, you're just
a little
recognizing.
snarky because there's a process that needs to be followed and we've gotten quite lax on it.
So we're recognizing.
Can we table this to help us not be lax?
Well, I've got the assurance from the county administrator that we'll be buckling this down, so.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss that with the department heads next month. Fill that in.
Is this going straight to the full board, or does it not need to go to the full board?
And again, if we don't spend it, we don't get it, so it,
Well, and that's why I'm wondering if we should have a discussion if those numbers have changed before it goes to the full board to decide
well,
that.
it's a reimbursement grant, so if she doesn't have overtime, she won't claim it.
Can she change funds though? That was my question. We might wanna talk
If she
to
needs to do a
her.
budget amendment, she can do that at any time during the grant period.
Okay. That would be my only concern.
I just don't know what the grant period is at the time.
That's what I do not remember. I know I heard it at one point when they brought it forward, but.
Yeah, I think that it came up in committee and I made a comment then, but it was just, we got $1 million, that's how I know.
Brian, wasn't this to pay for stuff we already expended as a reimbursement grant?
Mr. Henke, I'd love to answer that question.
I know, and I think we talked about it, I think that was said in committee. I think that,
There wasn't a lot said.
what was said in committee was, hey, we haven't heard a whole lot about this, you should be talking to Al, I believe we talked about that, but this looks to me like it's just reimbursing for stuff they've already spent. This is where they're gonna put it. My only comment on it would be, it's nice to see something paying springs in there.
Yeah.
Usually you can't do that with a grant, so.
Interestingly, the COVID funds have been very well done. I'm not sure that,
Give credit where credit's due,
not sure we need to be printing money, but the COVID funds have been well spent.
We do have a motion. we have a motion and a second, am I right? Deb?
Yes, yes.
Okay, is there any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, resolution D is tourism, and it's I Love New York funds. And $60,000 of fund balance.
So moved, Brian.
Moved by James Griffith, is there a second? Cassie Fedler, Dana Hogan, Sue Clary. Is there any discussion?
I just want to let the board know that we actually have received the funds, they're actually here, so.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. God bless you. Okay, resolution E is IT, carryover funds for planned 2021 purchases and reserve. Is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Second. Dave O'Brien, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution F is,
The reserve.
yeah, capital project 125.
No,
Oh, no, it's the next one.
that's the public health.
Oh, the reserve is separate, okay.
Very
F is
now, these are.
the actual reserve, yes. It's just money that's left over in their budget at the end of the year. They're moving it to, for unfinished things and things that need to be done. So, as far as I know. Is that correct?
So this is the capital reserve you set aside so that when big ticket items
Right.
come up, we've got.
It's available, but it's money that was left from last year's budget.
Remember, they
that
used
they're
to be
moving on.
part of the capital plan.
And we took them out.
Because of the level of funding, we've put them back in general fund, so we put a place to hold their monies, and you'll see this resolution every year, as long as you continue to desire to fund it, we'll continue to fund that capital reserve, so that if a big ticket item comes up, you're not getting those big spikes in your budget, you can kind of level those out with the capital reserve.
So moved by James, second. Sue, Cassie. Paul Ferguson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, resolution G is capital project number 125, and it's, LEC roof replacement. A motion for that. Moved by Dana Hogan, second. Cassie Fedler. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, resolution H, also capital improvement 125, is interfund transfer of $178,423. It was in the 2021 budget, and it was on the capital plan line. It just needs us to move it into the actual contingency of the 125 project. So a motion to do that. Moved by Dana Hogan, second by Dave O'Brien, Cassie Fedler, Sue Clary. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution I is the Marshall Grant projects. Motion for that. Moved by Dana Hogan, seconded by Cassie Fedler, Dave O'Brien. Mr. Roselle, would you second that? Yeah, there we go. Okay, any discussion? Mr. Half?
The last resolve said that this is a loan. Do we do loans all the time on Marshall Valley?
We've had to on some projects, depending on the size of the project.
We would prefer to do it than borrow because it's our own money instead of paying interest on it.
So we pay up front, and then when we get the.
You get reimbursed.
We reimburse ourselves.
Yeah, it's just like you do with the town, with CHIPS money. You pay the whole bill and then you get a check back after you show them you paid it.
I know that was considered a loan. Okay.
Yep.
The only other thing that I wanted to let the committee know is the first Schedule A that we got is an 80-20 split. It is anticipated that by the end of this project, it will end up being the 80-15-5. So our local cost of this may not be the 36, it may only be 25% of that.
Oh, nice. Good. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution J is to amend the 2022 buildings and grounds budget. It's just, everything's in the .4s, and they have office equipment that needs to be bought for other departments. So they just want to move $15,000. Is there a motion? Dana Hogan, second, Sue Clary. Any discussion? Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And resolution K is to carry forward septic system replacement grant unspent funds. Motion. Moved by Mr. Rozell, second by Dave Skelly and Cassie Fedler. Any discussion? No, or Dana F. Wrong.
Okay, so out of the $250,000 we have doled out or given out in this grant, $7,750.
One recipient, $7,750 at this time.
So that's one recipient.
We've got one awarded and one in process that I'm aware of.
When did we get the money? I'm trying to figure out, and what time period did it take for one recipient? Has it been a year?
I don't know when he started the process because all the applications were, so we sent the letters out in July or August, I want to say it was. And then Soil and Water collected the application, so I don't know. So their project would have had to happen after the grant period started.
Sent the letters.
So there was about 300 eligible property owners on the Calcutta and Lake George for the two bodies of water. There are specific property owners eligible for this money.
Okay, and there's still more, I believe, being worked at.
And I think that Soil and Water is working through some other applications. They've got to have them engineered and they've got to have receipts and all that. So there's hoops to jump through, but we've had one successfully complete that process.
Plus we have to,
Like 2 years or 1 year?
6 months.
Okay.
Go ahead, Cassie.
it's only been a few months since they started working, but we also have to remember, we're just coming through winter and nobody, just because you were approved to start the project, it couldn't have started in, say, November, December, January, because you can't work in the land and set it up correctly. So I would imagine in the spring, it would pick back up as work can begin.
Dana Hogan.
Hey, Alan, without being specific, you said it was one thing slated. What community did that occur in?
His mailing address is in Washington County, so I'm assuming it's a second home for him.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's filed now, but I'm not.
I want to say that it was a Fort Ann property address, but
So on these, we actually are replacing septic systems. We're providing grants to people with second homes on the lake.
this program did qualify them for the funds. We pay 50% of the replacement cost.
Well, it's because of the health of the water.
They're state DEC, not.
It's not about the health of the homeowner, it's about the health of the water. And so, like, you couldn't get it done for $7,750, we all know that, and it's like it says, it's 50% reimbursement.
50%.
And that's probably slows people down, because they don't wanna spend any money. But it's the case that get 50% of it paid for, it's people that can do it, will do it, more than likely. But it's about, there's a lot of things that the state does, it isn't about our well-being, it's about other people's well-being.
Well, and again, the system had to be failing first, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the state's goal is to clean up the lakes.
It's to clean up the water.
Systems, whether they're primary or secondary. They did have one application of somebody that had already done it ahead of time and wanted to be paid. That wasn't gonna work.
No, that doesn't work.
Who's not happy about that?
Okay.
Brian?
Go ahead,
Brian?
Cassie.
And it's not, it's 50%, it's, so if the homeowner pays 10,000, the grant pays 5,000 of it, and the homeowner's responsible for 5,000 of it. There's no county dollars going out, it's through the grant and the homeowner's money.
Homeowner has spent $20,000 to get the full benefit of it.
Right. Because there is a cap on how much they can get.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Resolution L. Amend the title by grade and public health fellowship positions. These were brought up a while ago, but finally reached my desk. So, motion to move the fellowships, Sue Clary,
Second.
second by Cassie Fedler. Any discussion? And half.
Is fellowship like a new word for internship?
Pretty much. Those are the titles that the state provided us to use for this
Because in some
program.
industries, fellowship is a very high, position, like a doctor or something. But I'm just wondering, are these high people or are these entry level?
The fellowship is more, an entry-level position.
In this case, yep, you're correct. That's twice I've told you were right today.
You're tied with Cassie?
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay. Other business?
You gotta do the director of education.
Yes.
Exempt schedule.
Add to the exempt salary schedule, and, do we have a dollar value for that? 89.9, right?
Whatever the date is.
Whatever the base is.
89,994.
We were close. Okay, I need a motion for that. Matt Hicks, second. Sue Clary, any more discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried. Argyle Solar Project. That's what I have for other business right now. I never heard back from him. He was gonna tell me on Tuesday, and I thought present today, but.
Well, I haven't heard from him. He came and picked up our, our part of it. He was gonna contact you directly. I'm out of it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I thought he was actually gonna come in and, do you wanna give us an overview of what?
That's what he wanted to do, and that's why I gave him your contact.
Yep. You wanna give us an overview of the project or anything before we hear from him, or?
Well, it's just a huge solar project that the school and the town has signed a pilot with. We want the county to sign on the pilot also. He's gonna come and give you a presentation about why he thinks we ought to take the money he's gonna give us. Instead of them being exempt, I guess is the point. Some money as opposed to no money, think how that process actually works. Anyway, he's not here, I'm not gonna speak for him, it's,
Okay.
How large is your project? I don't know, big.
Sure can't be as big as Easton.
Government, I don't think it's as big as the Eastern one, but it's close. That's close.
They did the same thing with us, I mean, and I think the county did here the case, it must be the same case that they wanted for that again.
Probably.
Well, they got the actual numbers and everything, so.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in my head, so I don't.
Right. Yep. We enacted a Washington County law that we are opting out of 427, which precludes us from offering pilots. So we have a law that says the county can't do it. Right?
You have, right.
So I don't think we're gonna rescind the law. Let's not push that sled down the hill, right?
Yeah.
It's not gonna preclude him.
You've opted out of the exemption, so you cannot go into, I mean, you can get additional money if they wanna pay above and beyond what their taxes would be, but you can't offer.
Not gonna preclude him from coming in and asking you.
You tell me rules are rules, so let's say the same thing back.
Very good, fair. Okay, did you have something else?
I still have other at that point. We spent a lot of time in a working group talking about how we're gonna spend the ARPA funds. Hey man, we had several categories of things that we're gonna do with it. And I haven't heard anything besides the money we obligated for social services to do, foster care. And I was kinda wondering how much money we had, where the money had gone, what we were doing with it.
We put aside the money for the buildings, right?
Well, I don't know, but I think that, that's a different sort of a decision that we ought to be talking about. But I'm just wondering what happened to the categories that we're gonna spend money in, and
They're in the second tranche, I believe.
They haven't changed.
Right,
We've only got the first half of the money.
and we've already
And that's the
dispersed
only
that.
thing that changed from the original packet was we reduced the broadband down and we did a second packet when we did that. So everything that's in that little, booklet that's supposed to put together for the working group, that's all still in place.
The one with the Bob Henke picture.
The money went to foster care, it was supposed to go to foster care, $5 million from the barns, and $600,000 to the capital plan. So the, water and sewer projects, and the broadband is in round 2, which was the rest of that package.
Also, I don't recall we had,
There was some for tourism too.
Yeah, there's 600 for
Yeah, 600,000 for tourism.
You're gonna hear that.
That's in this year's, that's in this July's distribution.
Okay, and you'll hear the plan for that in the upcoming towards the planning meeting.
We'll be appropriating about 60,000 of that early, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Not in
today.
general.
Yeah. So that package still in place, all that's still real deal. That hasn't changed.
well, we seem to have taken quite a lot of the money and stuck into capital plans and building buildings and doing all kinds of
The
stuff.
first of
That wasn't in our
Yes,
original
and
plan.
if you go back to that packet, there's like $2.1 million in lost revenue.
Yeah.
That's part of the 5 that went out to the barns. And then we reduced the
Well,
6 million in broadband
The
on like
fact
3.
that we put it in lost revenue doesn't mean that we weren't gonna spend it on those same categories of things.
I'll go over the packet with you, that's still in place.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's right, it's still the same. I don't think
We're
there's
still
anything
following
different.
that packet.
Okay, well, you know, perhaps I'm the only one in the room who's confused about that, but,
More than happy to go over it with you though.
That's because your picture's on it.
I'm thinking that maybe we ought to reconvene the working group and just have you explain that.
I think part of the confusion might be just the fact that now there's discussion about having that money go to the barns, the building of the barns, and that wasn't really specified in the overall plan.
Right, we took the lost revenue money and sent that to the barns.
To the capital.
And I think that's part of
Yep.
what wasn't clear.
Just, you're running numbers, I'm trying to follow them here. You said the lost revenue was 2.1 million?
2.3.
2.2?
3.
3?
2.3, yeah.
2.3. And now,
So that was
Bob
the original-
said he was under the impression that was not earmarked and hadn't been decided where it went, and now you're saying that we earmarked 5 million of it for the barns. Is that what you're saying?
We got 12 and we had $15
Well,
million in lost revenue.
yeah, we had 15 million in lost revenue.
Hold it to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't 2.3, it was.
Go ahead.
So,
I'm just trying to understand numbers.
Mr. Hankey's idea to reconvene the group isn't terrible. So what, we got, the original lost revenue number was only 2.3. When we had it looked at by the auditors, they were able to pick up
15.
a substantially larger number than that. So our lost revenue came in higher than our total award was. So technically, the money all became lost revenue, so the 2.3 was still a thing. We still used that 2.3, and then we added 2.7 out of the broadband money to bring it up to 5, and that went to the barn. So the only thing that took a hit, and it's in the second version of that packet, was the broadband money, because the broadband money started like 6 million or something. That's the thing that took the big hit for the barn.
And there was sewer money, there was a couple of different things.
Yeah, it happened here in committee.
Yeah, and we passed an actual resolution to move that money to the capital plan, so everyone should be aware of that because we all voted on it.
What
I just
this
didn't know.
finance committee did it last year, there's a resolution that approves the whole first tranche.
I'm gonna say October. I could be wrong. It might have been earlier, but it was at least by, well, the money came in August or September. It was right after the money came. Once we were sure it came.
And I think that's what unrestricted the funds, right?
It unrestricted all the funds.
But then I don't think there was.
It unrestricted it, but didn't change our
Right.
resolve
Right.
spend in those categories.
The only thing,
We just don't have to report it as.
Right.
the only thing that changed from the original version is how much you were putting to broadband. That was the only change in that whole packet.
Yeah, I still think we probably ought to sit down and talk.
No,
That's a great idea. Well, do we wanna do that in an actual committee, or?
Why don't we just put the working group back together? Yeah.
Okay, well, I thought,
Have you and Al come in and educate me.
okay. No, I was wondering though.
As I get older, I
I'd just like to include the whole board so everyone hears the same thing at the same time.
Well, the group can meet and then report back.
Okay.
Or anybody.
If I remember correctly, the working group was, here's our plan, we turned over finance for everything else from there on to spend the money. Was it? That was my last recollection. Working group.
I believe we adopted the plan, and in fact, we've been sending the plan out to the public as to how we're gonna spend the money.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, somebody's gonna come back in and say, here's how you told us here's what you told us you were gonna do, you can do that.
And now whatever the finance committee has to figure out how to spend it,
Kathy Sedlick, we want
I'm
the words of
gonna go-
wisdom.
They're not wisdom. I agree with Bob. Instead of us going around in circles and anybody else who agreed with him, just have you guys meet again and then come back and refresh our memories and then we can move on from there. Sounds like a plan to me.
Sounds good to me. I just wanna make sure the whole board hears the same story, that's all.
Why would you want that? Then we can't argue for hours about esoteric.
Okay, is there anything else to come before us today? Very good, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, appreciate it.